Hello and welcome to your Fantasy Premier League one-stop shop. I'm your host Stephen Gallagher, world number 3 in points totals over the past 3 seasons. Today we're looking at all the key points for Game Week 25, how to handle the double game week, the best chip strategies to use for the rest of the season, the best defenders, midfielders and forwards to buy, fixtures to target, optimal rotations, captaincy and more. If you're watching on YouTube and have been enjoying the videos, or if this is your first time watching, then consider dropping a like and subscribing. We're aiming for 500 likes on this video and for 4,000 subscribers by the end of the month. And if you're listening on audio, then drop the episode 5 stars if you enjoy. Let's get straight into it, starting with the injury news. For Liverpool, Trent Alexander-Arnold picked up a thigh injury, but he's already back in training and could even play in the Everton game. Joe Gomez has also picked up an injury, the same one that's kept him out this season. It looks like a bad one for him and he could be out for a while, unfortunately. For Aston Villa, Ezri Konsa was subbed off early against Spurs in the FA Cup, and with Pau Torres and Mings also out injured, that leaves Disasi as their only fit centre-back, but Emery is hopeful that it's not a big injury for Konsa. Then Ollie Watkins missed that game after picking up an injury against Wolves the last game week. He wasn't expected to be back in time for the Spurs match, but Emery is hopeful that he'll be back this game week. For Chelsea, Nicholas Jackson is still out injured. He wasn't in the squad for their FA Cup match against Brighton. No concrete info there on whether he'll be fit this weekend, unfortunately, so keep an eye out for that if you own him. Flecken suffered a side strain, but Thomas Frank is hopeful he'll return in time for the West Ham match this game week. For Man City, Ruben Diaz is back, and Ederson, Ake and Doku all trained ahead of their FA Cup tie against Leyton Orient. For Crystal Palace, Sarr missed the FA Cup tie against Doncaster Rovers with illness, while Eze and Nketiah were both out injured. And finally for Everton, David Moyes says Mykolenko could be available for the match against Liverpool, so keep an eye out for if he appears in that match. Next up is how to handle the double game week 25, and obviously in an ideal world where there's no blank game weeks, we'd all have 3 Liverpool assets, 3 Aston Villa assets, but we have to remember that both Liverpool and Aston Villa will blank in Game Week 29, along with Newcastle and Crystal Palace most likely, although that's not confirmed yet. So assuming you already own 3 Liverpool assets, as most people do, maybe you own a few Newcastle and Crystal Palace players too, you might not want to go loading up on Aston Villa players because you'll be left with a lot of players blanking in Game Week 29. And obviously this doesn't matter if you plan to free hit in Game Week 29, you won't need to navigate the blank game week with free transfers, you can just use your chip. But I'll discuss chip strategy in the next section and why I don't think free hitting in Game Week 29 is the optimal use of the chip in certain situations. My advice for how to handle this double game week is to have your 3 Liverpool assets and maybe 1 or 2 Aston Villa assets, whether that's Rodgers, Watkins or Emery. I think those are the best 3 ones to go for. But you should also be aware of how many players you have in your team currently that are blanking in Game Week 29, because this will have a big impact on the transfers you make now. Let's talk about chip strategy. It is that time of the season, and now that we have more information on who's blanking in Game Week 29 and who's likely to double in Game Week 33, blank in 34 and double in Game Week 36, this graphic from Ben Crellin on Twitter is a really helpful way of visualizing the likely doubles and blanks for the rest of the season. So shout out to him, he's a legend of the FPL community. First, I'm going to discuss chip strategy as if you have all your chips left. That's wildcard, bench boost, free hit, triple captain, assistant manager. Then I'll discuss the best strategies in case you've already used one of these chips. So in the case of having all your chips remaining, the first question I ask is, what are the optimal weeks to use each chip? For example, I like to use the bench boost in the game week where the most teams double. That way you can get up to 15 players doubling in your squad. For the free hit, I like to use it in the game week where the most teams blank. Now, the wild card is very useful in navigating the blanks and doubles. So using it after a blank game week and before a double game week allows you to plan for a bench boost while also avoiding the players who blank. For the triple captain and assistant manager chips, we ideally want to use them on double game weeks. But the number of teams doubling doesn't matter here, as we only need 1 good team or 1 good player to double with these chips. And it's also possible to use the triple captain chip on a single game week, for example when Salah plays Southampton at home in Game Week 28. So based off all this and based off the predicted schedule from Ben Crellin, the chip strategy to use if you have all your chips left and if you don't have too many players blanking in Game Week 29 is to bench boost in the biggest double game week, which is predicted to be Game Week 33, free hit in the biggest blank game week, which is predicted to be Game Week 34, wildcard after the blank game week and before the double game week in order to prepare for the bench boost, which would be any of Game Week 30, 31 or 32, and the triple captain and assistant manager chips should be used in any of the remaining doubles, either 25 or 36. Personally, I think using the assistant manager chip this week in the double game week 25 is better because we know that that is a double game week. We have that confirmed, whereas game week 36 is an unconfirmed double, and because the assistant manager chip is so powerful, it's the best chip we have this season. I think using it this game week makes more sense. It's just a bit safer, so that's my optimal chip strategy if you have all your chips left and you don't have too many players blanking in game week 29. This is what the chip strategy would look like in order of the game weeks. The only thing is that this chip strategy means you'd have to navigate the blank game week 29 with free transfers. So if you have a lot of Liverpool, Aston Villa, Newcastle and Crystal Palace players in your team right now, this may not be the best strategy for you. In that case, you'd probably be better off free hitting in game week 29, and all that changes is when you wildcard. Instead of wildcarding game week 30 to 32, you'd wildcard in game week 34 to handle the blank that week. So this strategy means you'd be using free transfers in game week 30 to 32 to prepare for the double game week 33, and then doing what we call dead ending into game week 34, which means making all your transfers as if the game weeks from 34 onwards don't exist, because you'd be wildcarding in 34 anyways. Now, in the case that you don't have your wildcard left, I'd still use the assistant manager chip in game week 25, and then I'd try to navigate the blank game week 29 and the double game week 33 with your free transfers. Then I'd bench boost in double game week 33, free hit in 34, and then triple captain in game week 36. In the case that you don't have your free hit left, the strategy is actually very similar to the no wildcard strategy, except instead of free hitting in game week 34, we're wildcarding in game week 34, so you'd still have to deal with the blank game week 29 and double game week 33 with your free transfers. And finally, in the case that you don't have your bench boost left, I'd actually change when the assistant manager and triple captain chips are being played. So instead of assistant manager in game week 25 and triple captain in 36, I'd use the triple captain chip this game week because we know it's a confirmed double. Then I'd wildcard in game week 30. That way we can prepare to use the assistant manager chip from game week 31 to 33, which allow us to take advantage of the double in 33, and we'd have a lot more options to choose for in terms of which assistant manager to go for, rather than this week where we only have two real options in Arne Slot and Emery. And then after that, I'd free hit in game week 34 to handle the blank game week. So there you have it. Those are my chip strategies. I've put quite a lot of thought into all the different variations here in terms of your team. You know, how many chips you have left, how many players you have in your team currently that blank in game week 29. So if this has helped at all, then drop a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Next up is defenses to target using our fixture difficulty rating and defensive strength ratings over the next 5 game weeks. First in the rankings are Crystal Palace. The Everton and Ipswich fixtures in the next 5 are really appealing here. If you own Munoz, then I'd be holding them. As you can see, Crystal Palace are expected to blank in game week 29, so I wouldn't go buying him up now in that case unless you planned a free hit in game week 29, but I would definitely keep Munoz until then because there's some nice fixtures in there. Second in the rankings are Man United, and the fixtures are definitely there for them. Everton, Ipswich and Leicester coming up. I just don't think I'd be willing to go for a Man United defender, as you never know what you're going to get from them, both defensively and offensively. If you already own the likes of Onana or Mazraoui or Dalot, then I'd be happy holding on to them, but I wouldn't be so sure about getting them in right now. Third in the rankings are Chelsea. The game week 27 and 28 fixtures are Southampton and Leicester, which is bringing up the rankings here. My advice would be to hold on to your Chelsea defenders if you have them, unless one of those is Sanchez, who was benched last week, and also unless you're replacing them with a Liverpool player, in which case go for it. Either way, I wouldn't go buying up Chelsea defenders right now. I know the fixtures are good, but the defense has been leaky at best, and there's always a chance of rotation in the squad. But I still think they're a good hold if you already own, because there's some nice fixtures in the mix there. Fourth in the rankings are Liverpool, and in my books, they're top of the rankings. Everyone should have 3 Liverpool assets with the second double game week in a row this game week. But if you don't already and want to get a Liverpool defender in, my favourite pick is Trent. But whether he's fit or not, we don't know yet. I'm recording this before the Liverpool-Everton game, so we'll see if he makes an appearance there. After Trent, I think Van Dijk is the second best option for his minute security and set piece threat, followed by Alisson and then Konate. I just prefer Alisson again because of his minute security, as Konate can be injury prone, but he's also the cheapest and still a good option there. Just be aware we're getting any Liverpool asset that they still blank in game week 29. Fifth in the rankings are Arsenal. The upcoming fixtures are really nice for them, and we know how good they can be defensively. If you're thinking of getting an Arsenal defender, then now is the game week to do so with the Leicester fixture. I still think Gabriel is the best pick from them, but Timber and Raya are also solid picks to go for. And finally, sixth in the defensive rankings are Bournemouth. Their upcoming fixtures are really nice. Southampton and Wolves in the next 2. The defense has been good this season, and they've just been playing well as a team overall. I think the ones to go for from them are Kepa, Kerkez and Huijsen, and if you're strapped for cash, I really like Huijsen as a pick here. Just a quick one on defences to avoid. As you can see, Newcastle are really low down the rankings here. Their upcoming fixtures are really tough, and they've also got the blank Game Week 29 coming up, so if you own the likes of Lewis Hall, I think selling him now makes sense. Obviously, if you have a lot of money tied up in him, it makes things tricky. Like myself, I bought him at 4.3 mil, so holding on in that case is okay as long as you can bench him. You can also see Man City down the bottom here. They played Newcastle, Liverpool and Spurs in the next three, so not great from a defensive perspective. I'd avoid them for now. We can also see Aston Villa and Brighton in 14th and 15th, and while their fixtures are tough, Aston Villa do have a double game week, and they also rotate really nicely with Brighton over the next few game weeks. Speaking of rotations, next up is our defender rotations, where we use a model that calculates the optimal defender rotations based off the fixture difficulty over the next 5 game weeks. As you can see, Crystal Palace and Man United ranking first here. It's a really nice rotation. You get Crystal Palace against Everton at home, Man United against Everton away, then Ipswich at home, then Crystal Palace against Ipswich at home, followed by Man United against Leicester away. You'd be doing really well to find a better defender rotation than that. Next up is attacks to target using our fixture difficulty ratings and attack and strength ratings over the next 5 game weeks. First in the rankings are Bournemouth. Their fixtures are amazing and they've been scoring for fun, but the only question is which Bournemouth attacker to get. And it's between Kluivert, Dango and Semenyo, and that's my personal order of preference. Kluivert is my favourite because he's on pens and he's in great form. Dango, my second favourite because he's playing out of position as a striker and he's getting a lot of chances and XG. And then it feels harsh to put Semenyo in third because he's so consistent. He's definitely the safest pick in terms of minutes, but I just think he's a bit less explosive than the likes of Kluivert and Dango. Second in the rankings is Liverpool. They're the best attack in the league, most goals, highest XG per 90, and they have a double game week. If you don't already have Salah, then get him in and captain in this game week. And if you want another Liverpool attacker, then Cody Gakpo is the one to go for. He's the next best thing in terms of consistent minutes for a Liverpool attacker. Of course, nothing is certain with the depth that Liverpool have in those positions, but his starts have been very consistent in the Premier League and he can get a massive haul in just one of these games alone. Just be aware again that Liverpool players will blank in Game Week 29. Third in the rankings is Chelsea. Since Game Week 17, their attacking data has been great, ranking third for XG per 90, but their actual goal scoring data has been really poor, ranking 11th for goals scored. So clearly they've been underperforming their data massively and Nicholas Jackson has been missing a lot of those chances. Now, I'd still hold on to Palmer if you have him. The upcoming fixtures are really nice with Southampton and Leicester both at home in Game Week 27 and 28. But if you still have Jackson, I think selling him for Wissa would be the move, or for Watkins if you can afford it. At the same time, I do understand holding him if you still have him because while he has been really poor, he's still getting a lot of chances to score and his fixtures are great. Fourth in the rankings is Brentford. Their upcoming fixtures are really nice. I think Mbeumo is one of the best transfers in this game week. He's the talisman for Brentford on all set pieces. And then there's Wissa. He's been really unlucky not to have a few returns in the past few game weeks. These two are just a great duo, so I do think the double up is a great option too. On to the attacker rotations. As you can see, the model really likes Bournemouth's fixtures. Ranking first is Bournemouth and Brighton. With that rotation, you get Bournemouth against Southampton away, Brighton against Southampton away. Then they play each other with Brighton at home, then Bournemouth against Spurs away and Brentford away. Some really nice rotations there. On to the stats review where we analyse the best performing players in every position statistically and combine that with the fixture difficulty ratings. Players in red are the most expensive and in green are the cheapest. For goalkeepers, we're looking at expected goals conceded per 90 against the defensive fixture difficulty rating. At the top of the plot, we have Henderson with the best upcoming fixtures, followed by Onana and Sanchez, then Kepa with a nice blend of fixture difficulty and defensive data there. On to defenders, we're looking at non-penalty expected goal involvement per 90 against the defensive fixture difficulty rating multiplied by the team's defensive strength. Crystal Palace players in the top with Munoz the standout option in terms of his goal involvement. Then Man United and Chelsea players clumped together with Dalot and Cucurella the most attacking of the bunch. Trent for Liverpool, clearly the best option, the most attacking defender in the league. Also looking good here, Gabriel at Arsenal, Robinson at Fulham and Kerkez at Bournemouth. On to the midfielders, we're looking at non-penalty expected goal involvement per 90 against the attacking fixture difficulty ratings. Bournemouth players so far ahead at the top. Their upcoming fixtures really are that good. As you can see, Dango's expected data has been really good. These Bournemouth players though are making the rest of the midfielders bunch up a bit, so let's remove them from the plot to get a better look at everyone else. We can see Chelsea and Liverpool players on the same level here in terms of the fixtures. Salah has the best expected data, followed by Jota. Obviously, he's injured, which is unfortunate. For Chelsea, Palmer has the best data, followed by Madueke. Man United are next with Garnacho the standout option here, and then Shade for Brentford, another standout, but his minutes aren't so secure. On to the forwards, Haaland in the bottom right here. Man City's upcoming fixtures, really tough. He's not doing enough to justify his price, and he's skewing the price colouring system here. So let's remove him from the plot to get a better perspective of the rest of the forwards. Evanilson at the top, but he's out injured at the moment. There's really no clear option in the top right with a perfect blend of data and fixtures, but there's still a few options in the top right quadrant. For me, Cody Gakpo and Watkins are great pickups this week with their double, but if you don't want to load up on players who will blank in Game Week 29, then Wissa is the next best thing. You can see his data is up there with the best, and he's really cheap in comparison. On to captaincy, we have Salah in the first spot for his double. It's a pretty easy decision when the best player in the game has 2 fixtures, but if you want to spice it up a bit, in second I have Watkins for his double. If he's fit, then he's a great pick this game week. He's on pens. Villa have a lot of new players adding into the attack. They're going to feed him some chances. If you want to go fancy and go against Salah, then he's the next best thing. In third, I have Gakpo for the double. He's the second best Liverpool attacker, and he can produce a big haul if he's on it. In fourth, I have Trent. If Liverpool can pick up 2 clean sheets here and he gets a goal involvement or 2, he'll be in for a massive haul. And then finally, in fifth, I have Morgan Rogers. He's been firing in the goals in the FA Cup and the Champions League, everywhere but the Premier League. So let's see if he can do it in the Prem. He's a big differential captain shout here. On to my Game Week 24 review. The Game Week is actually still underway. I'm recording this before the Liverpool-Everton game has been played. As you can see, I need a big result from that game to save my game week. Currently only on 66 points, down from 250k to 420k overall. I went for the assistant managership on Slot with the hope that he'd have 2 double game weeks in a row, and that has paid off, but he still has to play Everton tonight. You can also see neither of my goalkeepers played, both got benched, so that is an issue I'm going to have to address. And then Jackson also blanked again and came off injured. It's getting harder and harder to justify keeping Jackson, so let's look at how we're going to handle this mess. For Game Week 25, I've got 3 free transfers and 0.3 mil in the bank. I've got Sanchez in nets against Brighton away. He's on the chopping block for sure. I can't have no playing goalkeeper really. But if there is word that he'll start, I am tempted to hold onto him with Southampton and Leicester coming up in Game Week 27 and 28. In the defence, I've got Robinson against Forest at home, Kirkes against Southampton away, and Gabriel against Leicester away. Really happy with how the defence is looking this game week. Then in the midfield, I've got Rodgers and Salah, both with the double, Mbuemo against West Ham away, and Palmer against Brighton away. And then up front, I've got Jackson against Brighton away, Isak against Man City away, and Gakpo with the double. Then on the sideline, I have Arne Slot. I'm jealous of anyone with Emery this week as he can get the table bonus against Liverpool, which is really nice. But I'm not going to use a transfer on that as I still think Slot is a great pick. Then on the bench, I've got Fabianski who won't play, Sarr against Everton at home, Hall against Man City away, and Castagne against Forest at home. In terms of the transfer plans this week, there's a few routes that I can take. The main issues I have to deal with are Sanchez and Jackson. Sanchez to Kepa looks like a good move with Sanchez getting bench and Bournemouth's fixtures looking really nice. The only thing there is that I'd be doubling up on the Bournemouth defence, which I'm not so sure about, and I'd be missing out on the nice Chelsea fixtures in Game Week 27 and 28. The other transfer could be Sarr to Kluivert. My plan was to do that next game week in Game Week 26, because I'd have to get rid of Sarr anyways before the blank in Game Week 29. But with Kluivert playing Southampton this game week, it means that I can bench Jackson for him, see how he gets on, which would also mean that I can hold Jackson for those nice game weeks 27 and 28 against Southampton and Leicester at home. The other option is to just bin off Jackson for Wissa, which I haven't ruled out at all. Nothing 100% confirmed, so follow me on Twitter at FPL Gallagher to see what I end up going for. I won't be streaming before the deadline this game week as it's a Friday deadline and I'll be in the office working. So if you have any transfer questions, then let me know in the comments below. That's all for today, folks. Drop a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video and rate 5 stars on audio. Until next time, guys, have a good one.